الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين. أما بعد, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala orders us in His glorious book in Surah Al-Ahzab, chapter 33 and verse 41 that I mentioned last Friday. بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اذكروا الله ذكرا كثيرا. O you have believed, remember Allah with much remembrance. This is part 2 of last week's. We talked about dhikr, what dhikr is last week. This time, because any order from Allah carries reward and punishment. There's a positive and a negative side to it. So I want to discuss, the reward of making dhikr, and if we don't make dhikr, what happens? So again, as a reminder, dhikr is the remembrance of Allah. Is basically to be mindful of Allah in everything that we do and we say. That's you guide your life towards what pleases Allah and you stay away from what angers Him. That's what dhikr is. That's dua, it's reading the Quran, it's prayer, it's educating yourself. These are all categories of dhikr. So the reward of dhikr, I mentioned this last week as well. Allah says in Surah Al-Baqarah in chapter 2 verse 152, فَاذْكُرُونِي أَذْكُرْكُمْ وَاشْكُرُوا لِي وَلَا تَكْفُرُونَ. So remember me, I will remember you. And be grateful to me and do not deny me. So one of the benefits of dhikr, of remembrance of Allah, is Allah will remember you. When you get in trouble, when you need it the most, Allah will remember that you made dhikr. You tried to get close to Him and He will save you from every predicament that you face. So that is a great bounty. There is no point in mentioning any other reward. That by itself is more than enough. Another one is in Surah Al-Ahzab in the ending, that's chapter 33 in the ending of verse 35. وَالذَّاكِرِينَ اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا وَالذَّاكِرَاتِ أَعَدَّ اللَّهُ لَهُمْ مَغْفِرَةً وَأَجْرًا عَظِيمًا. It's the ending of that verse. And the men who remember Allah often, and the women who do so, for both men and women. For them, Allah has prepared forgiveness and a great reward. So making dhikr, remembering Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala a lot, carries with it forgiveness from Allah and a great reward. And when Allah says, I have a great reward, greatness is measured by the speaker. If a little child comes to you and say, I have a great, I have a large sum of money with me, you're going to think it's $10, $20 at most. But when a billionaire tells you, I have a big sum, you have to gauge the words by who said them. So Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, when He says Al-Azim, when He says your ajr is Azim, it's unimaginable. So that is a great reward. Another one in Sahih Muslim, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, لا يقعد قوم يذكرون الله عز وجل إلا حفتهم الملائكة وغاشيتهم الرحمة ونزلت عليهم السكينة وذكرهم الله في من عنده. The people do not sit remembering Allah. That means when people gather to remember Allah, to study, to study dhikr, to read Quran, whatever it is that they're doing, when they gather, they are surrounded by angels and covered by mercy, and there descend upon them tranquility, and Allah makes a mention of them to those who are near Him, meaning the angels. So when, that's the reward of making dhikr, is Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala tells everybody in His companion, all the angels, look, my servants are mentioning me. How great is that? And tranquility is something that cannot be bought. If Allah does not give you tranquility, you'll never have it. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Another one, in Surah Al-Ra'd, chapter 13 and verse 28, Allah says, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَتَطْمَئِنُّ قُلُوبُهُم بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبُ. Those who have believed and whose hearts are assured by the remembrance of Allah. Unquestionably, by the remembrance of Allah, hearts are assured. Tranquility and inner peace, and that beautiful feeling that only a believer can experience because of his closeness to Allah, That's from the fruit of remembrance of Allah, from dhikr. There is no other way to achieve that inner peace. You have to be close to Allah for Him to give it to you as a bounty from Him. Now, the flip side, what if we do not mention Allah, or we do it a little bit? What does Allah say about those who don't make dhikr or are stingy with that? Allah says in Surah An-Nisa, chapter 4 and verse 142, talking about the hypocrites, إِنَّ الْمُنَافِقِينَ يُخَادِعُونَ اللَّهَ وَهُوَ خَادِعُهُمْ وَإِذَا قَامُوا إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ قَامُوا كُسَالَى يُرَاءُونَ النَّاسَ وَلَا يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. Indeed, the hypocrites think they are deceiving Allah, but He is deceiving them. And when they stand for prayer, they stand lazily. They're showing off. They don't mean it. They're not standing in front of Allah. They're just making a show of it. They're showing themselves to people and not remembering Allah except a little. So a hypocrite remembers Allah, but a little bit. That's why Allah in the verse says, اذكروا الله ذكرا كثيرا, a lot. So the abundance in the remembrance of Allah is a ward from hypocrisy. If you do not want to have any traits from the hypocrites, remember Allah and make dhikr a lot. And a lot, to qualify for that, it governs everything that you say and you do in your daily endeavors. That's what qualifies as a lot. Allah is constantly with you. You're constantly remembering Him. You don't forget Him. Another one, in Surah Al-Zukhruf, chapter 43 and verse 36, وَمَنْ يَعْشُ عَنْ ذِكْرِ الرَّحْمَنِ نُقَيِّدْ لَهُ شَيْطَانًا فَهُوَ لَهُ قَرِينٌ. And whoever is blinded from remembrance of the Most Merciful, we appoint for him a devil, and he is to him a companion. The ones that don't remember Allah, they're living in their own world. And Allah says, if they forget about Allah, they don't remember Him, He's going to appoint a devil that's going to be their companion. And if the devil is your companion, what do you think is going to happen to you? They're going to lead you to anything that's bad, to lead you to disasters in this life and in the hereafter. So by remembering Allah, you ward off that devil. That devil stays away from you. He doesn't like it when you mention Allah. But when you forget to mention Allah, he's going to come to you and start whispering. So remembrance of Allah protects you from the whispers of the devil. Another one, in Surah Al-Munafiqeen, chapter 63, verse 9, Allah says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَا تُلْهِكُمْ أَمْوَالُكُمْ وَلَا أَوْلَادُكُمْ عَنْ ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ وَمَا يَفْعَلْ ذَلِكَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْخَاسِرُونَ. O you have believed, let not your wealth and your children divert you from the remembrance of Allah. And whoever does that, then those are the losers. If your business, if your college, if your games, if your TV, if your whatever it is distracting you from the remembrance of Allah, Allah says you are in a great loss. And again, when Allah says great loss, that loss is unimaginable. So we should not let life distract us. And Allah expressed your wealth and your children as the most two important things to you. If those things and anything lower than that is distracting you from Allah's remembrance, you are in a great loss. So you'd better not let anything in this life distract you from the remembrance of Allah. That is the most important thing. Another one in Surah Taha, chapter 20 and verse 124. Allah says, وَمَنْ أَعْرَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِي فَإِنَّ لَهُ مَعِيشَةً ضَنْكًا وَنَحْشُرُهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ أَعْمَى. And whoever turns away from my remembrance, indeed he will have a depressed life, a miserable life. And we will gather him on the day of resurrection blind. So the people that forget about Allah, what they have to look forward in this life is misery. They can be the richest people on earth. They will be miserable. They will have a depressed life. How many times do you read in the paper or you see it on the news, this billionaire and this wealthy person, they kill themselves because they are miserable. On the inside, they're miserable. It doesn't matter what they have of this life, you are not going to get happiness. Happiness comes from Allah, not from material things. So the miserable life awaits those, this is in this life, a miserable life for the ones who are distracted from the remembrance of Allah. On the day of judgment, they will be gathered blind because they were blind in this life to the signs of Allah. The signs of Allah were all around them, they forgot it. When something beautiful comes to them from Allah, they thank somebody else. Allah is never on their mind, never in their calculations, never in their thoughts. So they were blind in this life, they deserve to be blind in the hereafter. So these are the words of the Creator, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Money and fame will not bring you happiness. Family and health by themselves will not bring you happiness. Beauty and strength will not bring you happiness. Allah gives all of those to many of His servants, believing people and non-believing people. But contentment and inner peace is only given in measures to His servants. The closer you are to Allah, the more you remember Him, the more you're in tune with His orders, you get a bigger share. You get less share. So if you want that inner peace of no matter what's happening around you, there is no anxiety, there is no fear, there is no anything, because Allah controls everything. And if it's meant to happen to you, there is nothing you can do to prevent it. And if Allah wants to protect you from it, nothing on earth will hurt you. That's where the inner peace comes from your closeness to Allah, from the remembrance of Allah, from knowing that everything is in Allah's hands, and only good comes from Allah as far as a believer is concerned. You can look at it however you want, it is good for you, and you will know that in the hereafter. Physical health, the physical health is connected to your psychological health. And a lot of the experts tell you that now. If you get stressed, you'll make yourself sick. You may not have a sickness, you may have no reason to be sick, but you can worry yourself sick. But when you have faith in Allah and you have that inner peace, your spirit is solid and your body follows. Your immunity is, goes up when you're close to Allah, when you have that inner peace. So dhikr, remembrance of Allah, strengthens the body and the spirit. And remembrance of Allah should be constant in our life, in everything that we say and everything we do, if we want happiness in this life and in the hereafter. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لكم فاستغفروه إنه الغفور الرحيم.